She dumped me with, "We'll always be friends though." I replied, "Absolutely." Weeks later, she found out friendship didn't include rent money, emotional support, or car repairs, especially once I started dating her roommate. The end of my 2-year relationship came on a Tuesday night. It wasn't a shouting match or a dramatic, tear-filled fight. It was quiet, condescending, and ended with the most insulting sentence a person can hear. "We'll always be friends, though." My now ex, Amber, had been acting distant for weeks. She's an artist, or at least that's what she calls herself. Mostly it means she works part-time at a coffee shop, spends the rest of her time talking about the novel she's going to write someday, and looks down on people like me who actually work for a living. I own a small business restoring classic cars. I work with my hands. To her and her pretentious art school friends, that made me simple. Reliable, but simple. A sturdy piece of furniture you keep in the living room but don't really think about. That night, she sat me down on the couch in our apartment, an apartment where my income covered about 80% of the expenses, and gave me the speech. She'd clearly been practicing it. It was full of vague nonsense about needing to nurture her creative soul and how she felt stifled by our relationship. The subtext was loud and clear. I, with my grease-stained hands and my practical, logical brain, was not exciting enough for her grand, artistic destiny. I didn't argue. I didn't try to change her mind. I'm a mechanic. When an engine is shot, you don't try to reason with it. You accept that it's broken and you either rebuild it or you scrap it. And this relationship was totaled. So I just sat there, listening, as she laid out the terms of her departure from my life. And then came the final, patronizing blow. She put her hand on my knee, her expression a perfect blend of pity and self-importance. "We'll always be friends though, right?" she said, as if she were bestowing a great honor upon me. She expected me to be grateful. She expected me to nod along, happy to be kept in her orbit as a platonic, reliable resource. The ever-dependable Jake, always there to fix her car or help with the bills, but now without any of the messy expectations of a real relationship. In that moment, a switch flipped in my head. The hurt and disappointment I might have felt were instantly replaced by a cold, hard clarity. She wasn't breaking up with a partner. She was reclassifying an asset. I looked at her perfectly composed, sincere-looking face, and I gave her a slow, even smile. "Absolutely," I said. The relief that washed over her was visible. She had done it. She had her freedom, but she had managed to keep her safety net. She had no idea that my definition of friendship was about to become a very harsh and very expensive lesson for her. "Oh, good," she said, her smile now genuine. "I'm so glad you're being so mature about this." "Of course," I said, standing up from the couch. "That's what friends are for. So, as your new friend, let me give you some friendly advice. You should start looking for a roommate to cover my portion of the rent, because I'll be moving out this weekend. My friendship is free, but my share of the bills is not." The smile on her face didn't just fade. It shattered. "What? You're moving out? But you can't. Where am I supposed to go?" "I'm not sure," I said, walking towards the bedroom to start packing. "But I'm sure a resourceful artist like you will figure it out. Friends believe in each other, right?" Update 1. The concept of me actually leaving was something Amber's brain simply could not compute. For the next hour, she followed me from room to room as I started gathering my things, her arguments escalating from confusion to panic to outright rage. "You can't just abandon me here," she said, as I started pulling my clothes out of the closet we shared. "The lease is in both our names. You're legally responsible." "You're right," I said, not breaking my rhythm. "We are both legally responsible, which is why I will continue to pay my half of the rent until the end of this month. That gives you about 3.5 weeks to find a new roommate to take over my spot. Or we can break the lease together, which comes with a $2,000 penalty that we would split. I'm comfortable with either option. The choice is yours." The mention of a $1,000 penalty, a sum she absolutely did not have, sent a fresh wave of panic across her face. Her part-time job was for what she called inspiration money, enough to cover her daily coffee and art supplies. I was the one who handled the actual cost of living. "I can't afford that. And I can't find a roommate in 3 weeks. You have to stay, Jake, at least until the lease is up in 6 months. It's the decent thing to do. We're friends, remember?" Friends don't force friends to live in an awkward, emotionally charged environment, I said, pausing to look at her. That would be unhealthy. As your friend, I'm giving you the space you need to find yourself. And I'm taking my space too. It was at that moment that our third roommate, Maya, came home. Maya was a veterinary technician who rented the apartment's small second bedroom. She was quiet, worked insane hours, and generally tried to stay as far away from Amber's constant low-grade drama as possible. She walked in, took one look at my open suitcase and Amber's tear-streaked, furious face, and just sighed. "Don't tell me," she said, her voice weary. "Her car broke down again?" "Worse," Amber wailed, turning to her for support. "He's leaving me. He's moving out." Maya's eyes met mine over Amber's head. I just gave a small, tired shrug. "We broke up," I explained. "I'm getting my things. I'm paid up through the end of the month. After that, you'll have a new roommate." Maya's expression was unreadable, but she gave a slow, deliberate nod. "Okay," she said. Then, without another word, she disappeared into her room and closed the door. She was a professional at non-engagement. Amber, deprived of an ally, spent the rest of the weekend trying every manipulation tactic in the book. She cried. She reminisced about our first date. She accused me of being a cold, heartless monster. I didn't take the bait. I just kept packing. My responses always filtered through the new, infuriatingly unhelpful lens of our friendship. "You're really just going to throw away 2 years of memories?" she'd cry. "As your friend, I think it's important to focus on the future, not the past," I'd reply, my voice full of a calm, serene detachment. The first real test of our new dynamic came the following week. I had moved my things into a small, temporary apartment and was in the process of setting up my new life. I got a call from her on a Tuesday night. "Jake, thank God you answered," she said, her voice a frantic whisper. "The power just went out, and the internet is down. You have to come over and fix it." "Did you check the breaker box?" I asked. "The what?" "I don't know anything about that. You always just handled it." "The breaker box is in the utility closet in the hallway," I explained patiently. "It's probably just a tripped switch. You just need to find the one that's out of line and flip it back." "I'm not doing that. It's dark and I'm scared. What if I get electrocuted?" "You need to come over, please, Jake, as my friend." There it was, the friendship card. I took a deep breath. "Amber, as your friend, I'm concerned for your safety. But I'm 2 towns away. It would take me an hour to get there. The fastest solution is for you to call the emergency maintenance number for the apartment building. That's what it's for. They have someone on call 24/7. Their number is on the fridge." There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end of the line. She was so used to me being her personal on-call handyman that the idea of using a normal, conventional solution had never even occurred to her. "But they'll charge for that, won't they?" she asked, her voice small. "They might," I said. "But as your friend, I think your safety and comfort are worth it, don't you? You got this. Let me know how it goes." I hung up before she could argue. The calls and texts continued, of course. A few days later, it was about her car making a weird noise. I advised her to take it to a reputable mechanic. When she complained about the cost, I, as a friend, advised her to start a savings account for car repairs. Each problem she encountered, a problem I would have once solved without a second thought, was now met with a wall of calm, friendly, and utterly useless advice. I was her friend. And friends, I was teaching her, don't solve your problems for you. They just pat you on the back and wish you luck. Update 2. The slow-motion implosion of Amber's life continued for the next month, and I had a front-row seat thanks to my new, unlikely friendship with Maya. After I moved out, Maya and I started texting. It began as a sort of battlefield intel exchange. She'd give me a heads up when Amber was having a particularly spectacular meltdown, and I'd offer my sympathies. I learned that Amber's search for a roommate was a complete disaster. She wasn't looking for someone to split the rent. She was looking for a replacement me. The ad she posted was a laundry list of demands. The new roommate had to be clean, quiet, financially stable, and willing to help out with household tasks. She was essentially trying to hire a new live-in boyfriend who would also pay her bills. Unsurprisingly, she had no takers. One evening, Maya texted me, sounding more stressed than usual. Her dog, a scruffy little terrier mix named Buster, was sick. He was lethargic and wouldn't eat, and she was starting to panic. The emergency vet clinic was on the other side of town, and she was afraid to take him on the bus. Amber is out with some new guy she met at a poetry reading, she texted. I don't know who else to call. I didn't even think about it. I'm on my way, I replied. I drove her and Buster to the clinic. We spent the next 4 hours in the waiting room, talking about everything and nothing. She told me about the crushing pressure of law school, and I told her about the satisfaction of bringing a classic car back to life with my own hands. We learned that we had the same sarcastic sense of humor, the same no-nonsense approach to life. By the time the vet came out and told us Buster was going to be fine, he had just eaten a sock. Something had shifted between us. I started finding more excuses to see her. I offered to help her with her own car, a beat-up old sedan that was in even worse shape than Amber's. I spent a Saturday afternoon under her hood, changing her oil and replacing her spark plugs. I didn't ask for a dime. I did it because I wanted to. Because I liked her. We started dating, quietly at first. It was easy. It was fun. There was no drama, no manipulation, just two people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. We kept it to ourselves. We knew that if Amber found out, it would trigger a Category 5 hurricane of drama. The inevitable confrontation came about 2 months after my breakup with Amber. She had finally, miraculously, found a new roommate. A young grad student who was clearly just desperate for a place to live. I had to go to the apartment to sign the papers to get my name off the lease. Maya had just finished her last final of the semester, so I told her I'd take her out to celebrate afterward. She decided to just come with me to the apartment so we could leave from there. The scene in the living room was tense. The building manager was there, along with the new roommate, who already looked like he was regretting his decision. Amber was being performatively cheerful, talking loudly about her new chapter and how everything happens for a reason. As I was signing the final document, releasing me from all future responsibility for the apartment, Maya, who was standing beside me, reached out and squeezed my hand. A small gesture of support, but to Amber it was a declaration of war. Her eyes, which had been darting around the room with a manic, false energy, landed on our intertwined hands. The fake smile on her face froze, then cracked. It was like watching a dam break in slow motion. The color drained from her face, and her eyes filled with a look of such profound, venomous betrayal that it actually took me by surprise. She had lost her boyfriend, her financial provider, her handyman, and her emotional punching bag. And now, she was watching him be replaced, in her own living room, by the quiet, unassuming roommate she had never even bothered to get to know. She didn't scream, she didn't cry, she just stared at our hands, and in that moment, I think she finally understood the full, devastating cost of her friendship. Final update. It's been a little over a year since I walked out of that apartment for the last time. My life, and Amber's, have continued on the different paths she was so eager to explore. After the lease signing incident, Amber's world completely fell apart. Her new roommate, the grad student, lasted exactly 6 weeks. He moved out in the middle of the night, leaving a note that said he would rather live in his car than spend another day in that apartment. Unable to cover the rent on her own, Amber was evicted. The last Maya heard, she had been forced to move back in with her parents in a small town 3 hours away. Her grand, artistic life in the city was over. Her journey of self-discovery had led her right back to her childhood bedroom. Her attempts to launch a smear campaign against me and Maya failed miserably. She had alienated too many people. Everyone knew she had been the one to end our relationship. Her narrative of being the betrayed, heartbroken victim had no audience. As for me, my life has never been better. Maya and I are now living together in a small house I bought on the other side of town, a place with a big yard for Buster and a 2-car garage for my projects. She passed the bar exam and is now working as a junior associate at a downtown law firm. We are a team, a true partnership. We split the bills, we share the chores, and we support each other's ambitions without a hint of resentment or competition. It's the easiest, most natural relationship I've ever been in. My revenge was never a big, dramatic plan. It was just a quiet, consistent refusal to play her game. She wanted to be friends? Fine. I was the best friend she could have. I offered her endless advice and zero actual help. I simply enforced the new boundary she had created, and I let her experience the full, unfiltered consequences of her own choices. I stepped out of the role of her provider, and her life, which had been built entirely on that foundation, collapsed. Then I built a better life, with a better woman, right under her nose. And that, it turns out, is the most satisfying kind of friendship there is.